What if we told you that The Big Heat wasn't just another crime thriller, but a film that pushed boundaries and left audiences on the edge of their seats, both on screen and off? This 1953 classic, directed by Fritz Lang, exposed the brutal world of corruption and revenge in ways that still shock viewers today. But there's much more to this film than meets the eye. For instance, did you know that the famous coffee throwing scene, where Gloria Graham's character throws hot coffee in the face of Lee Marvin, was so intense that it left him burned for days? And incredibly, Glenn Ford's character was so emotionally driven by the film's events that it took him weeks to shake off the role's dark energy. Get ready to uncover these jaw-dropping revelations and much more about this iconic film. Gloria Graham's real struggles. In a 1980 interview, Gloria Graham revealed how playing Debbie Marsh was one of her most difficult roles. She spoke about the emotional vulnerability of the character and how she had to tap into her own fears to portray a woman trying to survive in a corrupt world. She admitted that, despite the challenges, she was deeply proud of her performance, which she described as a significant departure from her usual roles as a glamorous femme fatale. The iconic coffee-throwing scene. Lee Marvin spoke in an interview about the infamous scene in which Gloria Graham throws hot coffee in his face. What most people don't know is that the scene was real. Graham's coffee throwing was unscripted, and Marvin endured a real burn from the scalding liquid. Marvin recalled, "It was definitely painful, but it added authenticity to the scene." This unintentional intensity added to the raw nature of the film and became one of the most memorable moments in noir history. The film's censorship battle. In interviews, Fritz Lang discussed the film's struggles with censorship. The Big Heat was initially deemed too violent, with some scenes threatening to be cut. Lang fought fiercely to keep the film's brutal honesty intact, specifically the depiction of violence and torture. He stated, "The film's power comes from its realism. You can't sugarcoat the brutality of the world these characters live in." The studio eventually agreed to release it with minimal changes. The real inspiration behind the script. Screenwriter Sidney Boehm revealed in interviews that much of the inspiration for The Big Heat came from real-life crime stories that were circulating in the 1950s. He focused on the psychological consequences of crime and corruption, taking inspiration from high-profile mob cases of the era. Boehm's research led to the creation of deeply flawed characters, making the film feel more like a documentary than fiction. Glenn Ford's method acting struggles. Glenn Ford opened up in interviews about how emotionally taxing his role in The Big Heat was. He mentioned that playing the vengeful, grief-stricken detective Dave Banyan took a toll on his personal life. Ford would often remain in character off-camera, which led to feelings of anger and frustration that lingered even after the shooting wrapped. This intense method-acting approach gave Ford's performance a raw authenticity that still resonates today. Fritz Lang's cinematic vision. Director Fritz Lang was known for his unique approach to film noir, and in his later years, he discussed his views on what made a successful noir film. He argued that film noir was not just about darkness and shadows, but also about the inner darkness of the human soul. In an interview with Film Quarterly, Lang explained that The Big Heat was a study of the moral decay inside people who seem outwardly normal but are motivated by rage and revenge. Glenn Ford's hidden kindness. Despite his tough guy image on screen, Glenn Ford was known to be kind and generous with his co-stars. In an interview, Lee Marvin shared that Ford often helped out behind the scenes, offering advice to younger actors and even buying them lunch. Marvin recalled how Ford's warm personality stood in stark contrast to the hard-boiled roles he played. This sense of camaraderie helped create a sense of unity among the cast, even as they portrayed characters in a morally divided world. Ford's kindness behind the scenes proved that his on-screen toughness didn't define his true character. The realistic violence. In an interview with Variety, Fritz Lang revealed that he wanted the violence in The Big Heat to feel authentic and unflinching. Lang believed that the film's power came from the audience feeling the weight of the character's choices, making the violence not just sensational, but necessary. He used practical effects and relied heavily on the actors' performances to create a raw, gritty experience. Lang wanted every punch, gunshot, and moment of pain to resonate with the audience. His goal was to avoid over-the-top dramatization, keeping the violence grounded and deeply tied to the film's moral dilemmas. The noir setting's influence on later films. In later interviews, filmmakers like Martin Scorsese cited The Big Heat as a major influence on their own work. The film's blending of moral ambiguity, violent action, and complex characters helped shape the evolution of crime dramas in the years that followed. Scorsese, in particular, noted how the film's stark portrayal of revenge and corruption influenced his approach to films like Goodfellas and Taxi Driver. The moral complexity of The Big Heat made it stand out in the noir genre, and its influence can still be seen in the way modern crime films portray the blurred lines between good and evil. The role of Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin's portrayal of Vince Stone remains one of his most iconic roles. In interviews, Marvin admitted that he was drawn to the role because of its complexity. He stated that he wanted to play a villain who wasn't just evil for the sake of being evil, but someone who was driven by survival and power. Marvin's preparation involved learning how criminals operate, their methods of intimidation, and their emotional detachment, all of which helped shape his chilling performance. Stone's cold and calculating demeanor made him a memorable and formidable antagonist, one of the standout figures in noir cinema. The film's enduring legacy. Even decades after its release, The Big Heat remains one of the most revered films in the noir genre. In a retrospective interview, film critic Richard Schickel described the film as the epitome of 1950s noir, praising its raw intensity and uncompromising portrayal of corruption. The film's impact is still felt today, with modern filmmakers often referencing it as a key influence in their own work. The Big Heat not only stands as a classic of its time, but it also helped pave the way for future crime dramas, influencing how filmmakers would depict characters torn between moralities. Glenn Ford's non-violent stunt. In a pivotal moment of The Big Heat, Glenn Ford's character, Detective Dave Banyan, faces several adversaries in an intense shootout. However, Ford, who was not particularly fond of violent scenes, insisted on choreographing the fight without actual combat. He wanted to ensure that the violence was more about strategy and intelligence than brute force. The scene was carefully staged to maintain the film's tone of thoughtful action rather than gratuitous brutality. This decision helped give the character of Banyan a more complex, introspective edge, showing that even in danger, justice could be pursued thoughtfully. The noir aesthetic, one of the hallmarks of The Big Heat, is its stunning noir aesthetic, which is integral to the film's atmosphere. Director Fritz Lang used shadows, harsh lighting, and contrasting black and white visuals to create a sense of unease and tension. This visual style became synonymous with the noir genre, with its use of darkness representing moral ambiguity and internal struggles. The film's striking visuals not only helped define the noir genre, but also enhanced the psychological tension in each scene. Lang's manipulation of light and dark reflected the stark contrasts between right and wrong within the characters themselves. Public reaction to the violence. When The Big Heat was released, its brutal violence shocked many audiences. The film's unapologetic approach to depicting violence, particularly the disturbing scenes of torture and murder, was rare for Hollywood at the time. Unlike many noir films, which often toned down physical brutality, The Big Heat was unflinching in its portrayal of corruption and revenge. One of the most controversial scenes involved the disfigurement of Debbie Marsh, which left a lasting impression on viewers. This raw and graphic approach to violence set the film apart from other noirs, showcasing the true consequences of moral decay. The legacy of The Big Heat. Despite its modest initial box office performance, The Big Heat has grown to be regarded as one of the greatest noir films ever made. The film's bold themes, shocking violence, and unflinching portrayal of moral decay influenced countless filmmakers in the years that followed. It stood as a model for depicting complex, flawed characters and morally ambiguous narratives. Today, it is studied and celebrated for its nuanced exploration of human nature, and it remains a cornerstone of classic American cinema. Its influence can be seen in both film noir and contemporary crime dramas, solidifying its enduring legacy. The Big Heat remains a timeless classic in the world of film noir, continuing to captivate audiences with its raw intensity and thought-provoking themes. From its groundbreaking portrayal of violence to its complex characters and unforgettable scenes, the film's impact on cinema is undeniable. If you haven't yet experienced this noir masterpiece, it's time to dive in and witness why The Big Heat still holds a special place in the hearts of film enthusiasts. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more shocking movie facts. And let us know in the comments, which movie's facts would you like to know next?